movie is actually banned in like, I'm pretty sure 20 something countries.
Why?
The reason it was banned.
A cultural phenomenon. Blair Witch Project.
I'm scared to close my eyes.
Disturbing. There's no doubt. I mean, it's a horror film that way, but it's more than that.
Imagine watching a horror film so real, so disturbing, that police, the FBI, or even a court of law believed it was an actual crime caught on camera. Some horror films go beyond fiction. They blur the line between cinema and reality. And in rare cases, they're so convincing that authorities launch full-blown investigations, believing they've uncovered a real-life snuff film. Today, we're diving into the most disturbing horror movies that were so realistic, they were investigated by law enforcement. Throughout history, horror films have terrified audiences, but sometimes they're so realistic that even the police can't tell the difference between Hollywood horror and a real-life crime scene. While many horror films are mistaken for reality, only a handful have led to actual police and FBI investigations. These films were so disturbing that law enforcement had to step in, suspecting they had stumbled upon real murders caught on film. From a director put on trial for murder, to a film so convincing it made the FBI launch an investigation, these are the movies that went too far, or maybe just far enough to terrify the world. Some films push boundaries, others cross them entirely. But this one was something different. A horror movie so brutal, so repulsive, that it is banned in over 50 countries. And not just for what it showed, but for the real deaths captured on film.
Keep filming, Mark. I'll cover you. You got it. Right down to the last foot.
Shortly after its release, authorities seized the film. Then its director was arrested. But here's the real question. Was this just a horror movie? Or had the world just witnessed real murders? Released in 1980, Cannibal Holocaust tells the story of a group of young filmmakers who set off into the depths of the Amazon rainforest and never returned. Weeks later, their footage is found. What it contains is a descent into pure savagery, a nightmarish vision of human suffering that feels too real for comfort. The film's hyper-realistic style was unlike anything seen before. No musical cues, no over-the-top performances, just a cold, unflinching gaze into absolute brutality. Viewers didn't feel like they were watching a movie. They felt like they were watching evidence. But one scene, more than any other, raised a terrifying question. Was it actually real?
Tight! Tight! Oh, come in for a close-up.
Shortly after the film's release, Italian authorities seized all copies and launched an investigation. The evidence was overwhelming. The actors were missing. The film had no visible special effects. The violence was filmed in long, unbroken takes with no sign of camera trickery. This wasn't a horror movie. It was a crime scene. Authorities arrested Deodato and charged him with murder. His crime? Filming the real deaths of his actors for profit. If he couldn't prove their survival, he would be convicted. But the mystery only deepened. The film's cast had vanished. No interviews, no public appearances, no trace of them anywhere. Had they truly been slaughtered for the camera? Had Cannibal Holocaust captured something far more sinister than anyone could have imagined? Weeks passed. Pressure mounted. Finally, the court issued an ultimatum. Deodato had one chance to prove his actors were alive, or face a murder conviction. And just like that, the case was over. The impalement scene? It was an illusion, a trick created with a bicycle seat and a thin rod placed in the actress's mouth. The missing cast? They had been contractually obligated to disappear for a year to maintain the illusion. The film was fake. Or, at least, that's what we were told. Because no matter what the court ruled, Cannibal Holocaust did contain real deaths. The film's shocking animal cruelty was not staged. It was not fake. Those creatures really died, and that blurred the line between cinema and reality forever. This is why Cannibal Holocaust remains one of the most banned films in history, not just for its violence, but for the undeniable truth beneath its fiction. And while Deodato walked free, the rumors never died. Some still believe there was more to this film than what we were told, that somewhere, buried beneath all the controversy, there's a secret that remains undiscovered. Some horror films are designed to shock, some are made to disturb, but this was something else entirely. A film so real, so terrifying, so depraved that the FBI launched a full-scale investigation after a Hollywood actor turned it in as evidence of a real murder. This is Guinea Pig 2, Flower, Flesh, and Blood, a Japanese horror film so horrifying that for years, no one knew if what they were watching was even fake. But was it just a movie? Or was this the real thing? The Guinea Pig series was created in Japan in the 1980s, a collection of extreme horror films designed to push the limits of what audiences could stomach. But Guinea Pig 2 was different. This wasn't just gore. This wasn't just horror. This felt like a recorded execution. There's no plot, no explanation, just slow, methodical torture. The film begins with a woman kidnapped and drugged, her body paralyzed, but still conscious. Over the next 42 minutes, she's dismembered piece by piece, her fingers cut off one by one, her insides scooped out, her body reduced to nothing. And worst of all, there are no camera tricks, no visible effects, just long, uninterrupted shots of a human body being taken apart. In the late 1980s, a copy of Guinea Pig 2 found its way into the hands of Hollywood actor Charlie Sheen, and after watching it, he did something no one expected. He contacted the FBI, convinced that he had just witnessed a real murder. Authorities took the claim seriously. The FBI launched a full investigation, believing they had uncovered an underground snuff film, evidence of an actual crime. They tracked the film back to Japan, where its creators were brought in for questioning, and the deeper they looked, the more disturbing things became. No actors had ever come forward, no behind-the-scenes footage existed, no one knew who the woman in the film was. The violence was too precise, the dismemberment too clean. If this was fake, where was the proof? Eventually, the film's creators came forward. They insisted that everything was fake, that Guinea Pig 2 was nothing more than a technical experiment in gore effects. But here's the thing, they had no proof. They claimed they had filmed behind-the-scenes footage, but it didn't exist at the time of the investigation. They claimed the woman was an actress, but she was never identified. Even after the FBI concluded their investigation, doubt remained, because even today, some people believe Guinea Pig 2 was a real snuff film, that the woman we see being taken apart never walked away. And if that's true, then the world's first recorded execution is still circulating in underground horror collections to this day. Some horror films try to entertain, some try to shock, but this one was different. A film so disturbing, so revolting, so uncomfortably real that when copies began circulating underground, people believed they had just uncovered something that was never meant to be seen. This is August Underground, a film that looks nothing like a movie. No soundtrack, no special effects, just a handheld camera capturing something that feels all too real. But is it? Released in 2001, August Underground was never meant for mainstream audiences. It wasn't screened in theaters. It wasn't sold in stores. Instead, it circulated through the darkest corners of underground horror communities, shared on bootleg tapes, whispered about in online forums, and for good reason. The film doesn't follow a story. It doesn't have a plot. What it does have is painfully realistic torture, prolonged suffering, and an unshakable sense that what you're watching isn't fiction, it's footage, raw, unfiltered, almost like a serial killer's private home videos. It was too real, and soon authorities took notice. The film wasn't just unsettling, it was convincing. The handheld footage made it impossible to tell where acting ended and reality began. Some viewers believed they had stumbled onto actual snuff footage, a real recording of real people being tortured and killed. It didn't take long before law enforcement got involved. When a copy of the film landed in the hands of police investigators, they began an inquiry. They needed answers. Were these just actors? Or was this footage of an actual serial killer documenting his crimes? The investigation led straight to Fred Vogel, the man behind August Underground. Vogel was stopped at a Canadian airport, his film reels seized, his materials analyzed. Authorities weren't convinced they were just dealing with a filmmaker. They were looking for evidence of murder. Eventually, Vogel was questioned by authorities. He insisted the film was fiction, an exercise in horror realism. But the problem? There was no clear proof. No behind-the-scenes footage, no special effects breakdown, just the film itself, and nothing else. The authorities couldn't prove the film was real, but they also couldn't prove it was fake. With no missing persons reports matching the victims on screen, they had no choice but to drop the case. But here's the thing. To this day, there are no known actors credited in the film, no evidence of a production crew, no confirmation of how the gruesome effects were achieved. And if it really was just a horror movie, then why did it feel so real? Some horror films use special effects. Some use elaborate costumes and Hollywood sets. But this one didn't need any of that. A film so raw, so eerily believable that when it was released, people thought they were watching the final moments of 3 missing students. Because here's the terrifying part. The actors were never seen again. This is The Blair Witch Project, a film that did something no horror movie had ever done before. It didn't just tell a scary story. It convinced people it was real. But was it? In 1999, The Blair Witch Project was released with almost no marketing. There were no traditional trailers, no cast interviews, no flashy Hollywood promotions. Instead, the film was presented as something else entirely. A real documentary about 3 film students who vanished without a trace. The film followed 3 young filmmakers who set out into the Maryland woods to document the legend of the Blair Witch. What they found, or what found them, was never supposed to be seen. The footage ends abruptly. The 3 students were never found. And when the film hit theaters, people believed it was real. Then came the reports. People began calling the Burkittsville Police Department, asking if the missing filmmakers had been found. Parents reached out, concerned. The local sheriff's office received so many calls that they were forced to release an official statement.
Search of the 3 missing Montgomery College students continues in Frederick County tonight.
The problem? These weren't actors in a film. They weren't doing press interviews or signing autographs. They were missing persons. The film's website, designed to look like a real police case file, only fueled the fire. It contained fake interrogation reports, interviews with family members, and chilling details about the supposed last days of the students. To the public, this wasn't a horror movie. It was evidence. Weeks passed. The film gained traction. More people saw it. More people believed. Then, the real question surfaced. Was this footage actually found? Or had something horrifying been covered up? Eventually, the filmmakers came forward. They admitted that the footage was fake, that the entire thing was a masterfully crafted hoax. The actors were alive. The missing persons reports were part of the marketing. It was all an elaborate illusion. But here's the thing. The line between reality and fiction had already been crossed. Some people refused to believe it was fake. To this day, some still claim that the footage was real, that the film's actors were never seen again, and that the behind-the-scenes clips were released only after intense public pressure.
Critics have called it one of the scariest films of all time.
I was terrified.
So if the Blair Witch Project was really just a movie, then why did it feel so real? We've seen horror films before. We know they're just stories, works of fiction meant to scare us. But these movies blurred the line between fantasy and reality. And for a time, the world wasn't sure if they were just movies at all. A director put on trial for murder. A film so realistic, it triggered an FBI investigation. A tape so disturbing, police launched an inquiry, and a movie that fooled an entire nation into believing its cast was dead. Each one of these films left behind a trail of fear, controversy, and unanswered questions. But now, I have to ask you, which of these films do you think is the most disturbing? And do you believe authorities were right to investigate them? Or is it possible that some things were never meant to be uncovered? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe these investigations were justified? Or do you think the truth is still out there, buried beneath the controversy? If you enjoyed this deep dive into the darkest corners of horror, make sure to hit that like button. Because trust me, there are more terrifying stories to uncover. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one.